Welcome to the MyJo Experience, a podcast designed to help you go further faster and do more with less. Every journey is unique. At MyJo, we celebrate taking my journey, my way. Learn more about MyJo by visiting joinmyjo.com and follow MyJo on all social channels at MyJoXP. Here is our host, Daniel Workman.
Welcome to the MyJo Experience, a podcast designed to help you go further, faster, and do more with less. On this episode, we are joined by my friend, Kephern Fuller. Kef, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, thank you, man. It's great to see you again. It's great to be back. So thank you for having me.
You and I go way back. We met
hmm
through the interwebs, originally through Twitter, I think. Now X, as I've met so many people, and we became analog, real life, real world, offline friends through that connection. But for the audience, tell us a little bit about who you are, kind of what you do at the moment.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm an American, and I currently live in the Netherlands, where I scout players from the U.S., also now the Netherlands and throughout Europe, and I help players get opportunities. So I'm not necessarily an agent. I would say I would put myself more as almost like a soccer consultant, where helping give information, helping connect people to clubs, helping clubs recruit talents from overseas. As we know, the American market is growing a lot, and the progress has been great and immense. And I think there's a lot of interest. So, being placed here in Europe right now has been beneficial to kind of get a perspective on what they look for here, and then at the same time, the Americans' perspective. So, that's what I'm currently doing right now.
So before we get into more of your present work and
hmm
the what all that entails, take us back to your early years. When did you first kind of get introduced to the sport, and what was those first experiences like being involved, becoming a player, a soccer player in America, as we would call it, a footballer, for the rest of the world? What was that introduction to the sport like for you, and what was those experiences like in the early years?
Yeah, that is a great question. For me, I first saw soccer at the age of 7.5, 8 years old in North Carolina, Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina, to be specific, kind of really close to the border of Virginia and North Carolina. And I was an Army brat, so I moved everywhere. The first 7, 8 years of my life, I was living in North Carolina, Panama, Washington State, and then finally we settled back in North Carolina, and that's where I was able to first find out about the beautiful game. And ironically, at the school I went to, the elementary school, at every lunch break, everyone played soccer. It was amazing. Like they had every kid they just come and play, and so you had different age groups playing. The third, fourth, fifth graders playing. So I actually started as a goalie first because I didn't know what was going on, and I think they had a little cage fence, dirt field, rocks. It was just sandlot soccer. You know what I mean? And it was a great experience for me because I would see players better than myself, and so that's what really inspired me to say, okay, I want to get better. And so I started getting better, of course, and then I was able to join my first rec team, play with them, U9, 11v11, full field with 9 year olds. So that was our experience running and fighting for the ball and heat and whatnot. Then I was able to make my first travel club team called the Sidekicks. So they were like a big team in town. And so I was really motivated to try to make them. So I made the U12 team. And that was, it was just a great experience. Even though it was a small town in North Carolina, it was very international as well. Like both of my coaches, one coach was from England, the other coach, I think might have been Gambian, Coach Latif, and then my main coach was from Trinidad, Coach Wilcox. And then we had an American coach also, Kenny Dickerson, so from the Sidekicks. So it was really just it was a great environment to be in. And actually, like I said, even though small town, the team was diverse. Like we had kids from different backgrounds. We had, black and white kids playing together, and other kids too. So it was actually pretty interesting to, if you think North Carolina, the South, you think during those times, you're talking about the early '90s. It was a different time period. So, but I would say it definitely helped shape a lot of my obviously my mindset, but also just my soccer culture. I would say growing up with that being my first football experience.
So, do you think being, you know, a military brat and obviously that experience in terms of being introduced to the game, even though small town, a lot of international influence, do you think that shaped your interaction and experience with the game and ultimately, you know, was part of what kind of stirred you to look beyond the US in terms of later in life? As you mentioned, you're living in the Netherlands. So like, do you think that that kind of part of your upbringing of moving around and experiencing different cultures and seeing and learning the game from different cultures, do you think that that had an impact on you later in life, and what kind of impact do you think that that had for you?
Well, I totally agree with that statement. That yes, it definitely had an impact because I think when you're a young kid, and you move around a lot, you're kind of forced to be kind of social. You're kind of forced to say, I have to get new friends. Um, I have to adjust to this new culture of people, how they operate. So I think with football is obviously the world sport, right? So if you can, essentially be around different cultures and operate, you're not going to get very far in the game. So yes, I think it had a profound impact on me as a person, and then also with my football experiences, and then also made me a little bit more apt to be like, okay, I'll move, because there's opportunities there, or I'm going to try this, and I'm going to look at this country, or I'm going to go here or go here. So I think it's made me more of an explorer than maybe most. Um, and yeah, it's been very beneficial. So it helped me on the field and it's definitely helped me off the field.
One of the other things you mentioned when you talked about your introduction at kind of lunch break and in this free play, street soccer type of freedom to learn and explore the game is a concept that I often refer to as transference or modeling, mentorship type. And it's not always this organized kind of planned overt, like, okay, I'm going to be the mentor and you're going to be the mentee, but it's just being in some of those environments, you're free to explore. You mentioned being inspired by some of those players that were better than you, and your competitiveness was like, hey, I don't want to be the worst player out here. I want to get better. I want to be better than that kid, right? do you
Yep.
how do you think that aspect of transference and the freedom to learn in an environment that was not overly organized had an impact on your interaction with the game, early on?
Definitely. I think it really helped me from the standpoint of, when kids play sports or they do something where adults aren't around, right? Kids aren't fair. You know, that's just something that's inherently like they want to win. So they're like, okay, I'm going to pick the best player. And so it helps you internalize, okay, why am I getting picked last, or where are you rated, right? And
Right.
kids are very honest. They're like, no, I want you to
Brutally
you,
honest at times. Yeah, for
brutally
sure.
brutally honest. If you think about it, and if you kind of relate it to the club game in the states, they actually let the kids pick the team because then we're going to see who's supposed to be on the team. There's
Right.
not going to be any politics or anything. There's going to be like, no, this guy should be on the team. I mean, maybe if they want to play with their friend, there might be some things happen like that. But in general, that was great for me because it really, it really allowed myself to see, okay, you're here, and then how do I get here, right? And then
Right.
when you started to get there, people start to notice, right? Because you're starting to get picked in the team. You start to gain confidence, but you have to start low to kind of build yourself up. So I think it was really great for me because I think through my whole soccer experience, I was always kind of the guy who was a little bit doubted, right? Like, oh, we're not sure. But because I went through my youth experiences of, okay, we're not sure, and then I had to go prove myself. I kind of always adapted to every situation where I would get people would doubt me. So I think it was very, very, very beneficial. And I would say my mom and my family, no one had the culture of football, right? So, but they had the culture of sports. So my mom was like, if you're not on the field, that's because you ain't good enough. That's just it, right? So it's like one of those things where, I had to fight hard and prove myself every time. So yeah, I think it was a great, great upbringing for myself in the sport.
So as you got a little bit older, you mentioned you made your way into travel soccer, which
Yep.
is a whole conversation for another day. American youth travel soccer. We'll
Yep.
set that whole ball of wax to the side for the
Yeah. Yeah.
moment. But as you were getting older, did you have a moment that you would look back on as like a first kind of big break for you in terms of
Mm.
maybe it was leading towards an opportunity with college soccer or something else that really began to open some new doors for you?
Yeah, it's crazy. The biggest story why I'm in the Netherlands was I actually met my Dutch club coach Alex Palma, and that was kind of happenstance. Like they had we're at a local county club uh, called Cobb County, like the YMCA. So our team was through the YMCA in Cobb County in Marietta, Georgia. And I played on a good team. There were U15s. We just went from second division to first division classic, I guess is what they called it back in the day. Maybe they still do now. And so I was the captain of the team. I think it was U15 year, and I developed, but pretty much everything was through American soccer and me playing street. That was it. Like, people would say, "Oh, you're kind of talented, like you're different," because I would just, when the old Ronaldinho videos came out, him dancing with the ball in his hand and everything, I just went insane. I was like, I have to learn these tricks. I would just spend hours and hours. Like, I was just so motivated by myself, right, to do the game. But I remember that summer. What was crazy is that summer I was going to Germany, and that summer was Euro 2000 as well. So I guess it compounded in two different things. Um, Alex Palma had this club called Red Wings, and like I said, he was a Dutch American. He had won a national championship before with the boys team, coached a lot of girls sides and all throughout the southeast in Arkansas, Georgia, different places as well, and one on the boys side as well. They had a very talented U16, U17 team, and they wanted to expand the club, right? So they needed to get the younger age group. So they needed to get the rising U16s and everyone. So they did friendly against us. Um, and I remember, like, I kind of showed up well in the friendly. Like, I showed some things, right? And it was against his older team, and the speed of play was like, I had never seen that speed of play because they were just playing differently than, the other American teams. It wasn't long balls, build up. It was like, for that time, it was like, wow. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I remember that was the only time he saw me. That was the only time he saw me because they were having tryouts in the summer and everything. And I was like, well, I'm leaving for Germany for 2 months. Going to see my dad. My dad and my mom were divorced, so my dad lived in Baumholder, Germany, with his wife, and my sister was over there too. So it was like, I was going to spend summer in Germany. But he saw me enough in that scrimmage to say, hey, we're going to offer you a spot. So that was it. And then I remember his pitch was totally different than everyone else. He's like, look, we're not going to all these tournaments. He's like, we go to the tournaments for college showcases. When you're 17 and 18, you're going to save your money on that. When you're 17 and 18, then we'll go so you can get scouted, recruited, go to college. And then we're going to take you overseas. So you're talking, 99, 2000, 2001. Not many teams were going to Europe. Maybe, you'll get some teams going to England and some things like that for little experiences, whatever. But like he brought us to the Netherlands, and I just remember arriving in the airport being like, whoa. I remember just on the interstate, like, whoa, the roads are different. Then, you get to the clubs and you got the clubhouse, and I was like, whoa. I can remember it like yesterday. So that was really kind of my big break because that's why I ended up being in the Netherlands because I fell in love with just the football culture and the experiences. And And from there, even when I went to college, I chased an opportunity back in the Netherlands when I finished school. So, yeah, that was a big break, and it was only one practice, so I guess I made it count.
Well, as you alluded to, this exposure, this experience
Hmm.
of your introduction to a world outside of what you were used to with the soccer piece of this by going to the Netherlands and seeing it up close. Um,
Hmm.
you afforded that opportunity to us several years after that, and we came over and got to see and feel and touch. And I can attest that there is something different there in the Netherlands, and the culture and the clubhouses and all of that feel of things is just um, it's really cool. It's really special, and it's not that it's not in other parts of Europe. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is it is different than what you normally experience in America. And so
Hmm.
it's just it for me it's still something that is part of our regular conversations in our house is was that trip and the subsequent trips made after that, and other things we've done in Europe and done with you in Europe that have been a blast. But it came, from that interaction with you in that first trip, and really, if you wanted to kind of play the game of the butterfly effect, it was your connection that eventually opened the connection to us. So it's kind of cool to see,
Yeah.
how you lived that moment, and then and remembering our moment of experiencing that is pretty cool. As you went through your college and then post college, you know, going back to the Netherlands, as you mentioned, were there any moments where you felt like you had, a setback or something that maybe didn't go the way you wanted it to go? And if so, what were some things that you either pivoted towards, or how did you overcome those setbacks?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say the biggest setback I had is that, when after college, 22, I decided to come to the Netherlands and try to just play for an amateur club and, spend 3 months, maybe 3 to 6 months on the tourist visa, the 90-day visa, and see what opportunities can happen for me. And at that time, Alex Palma was becoming the general manager of Comber Leeuwarden. So he was becoming a general manager then, and then he said to me, he was like, "Look, save up $1,000 we'll find your host family. You can live in Holland, and just live the experience." Because and the thing is, I saw in a newspaper clipping online, one of my former teammates, his name is Kenji Tresick. He played for Penn State, but he left Penn State and he came over to Holland. And I think it was like, I want to say he's like 2021 at the time, and they played in like a big amateur tournament where they play pro clubs, and he scored some goals and scored a banger. And then next thing you know, he's going on trial with Feyenoord, and AV Alkmaar's looking at him, and these other places. And I'm like, wow, like I'm like, okay, this is 2005. I saw that clipping, so I then called my coach. He said, yeah, if you want to come over the following year, see what happens. So 2006, that summer, I remember I had to rush and get on the plane, make it out there. I remember I told my mom, I was like, I'm just gonna go to Europe. What I mean? I just said, I just told my mom was down in Atlanta. She's like, "You're doing what?" I was like, "I'm gonna go to Europe. I'm gone." You know what I mean? Saved up my money, hit there, flew out there, and it was it was the best decision of my life, I think, from the standpoint of, within a month, they didn't, the amateur team wasn't even back for preseason yet. So, and my coach was becoming a general manager. So you can imagine I was a little bit on the back burner. Like he did help me. They set up someone to pick me up from the club. These are days where cell phone stuff, like international cell phone, like it was like a lady who picked me up, TT. I think rest in peace. I think she passed a couple years back, but took me over the van. She had no say Kephern, but she didn't know any English. It's like there was no way to contact him. If I didn't get it, we just got to figure this out. Right? So I think about those times and it was like, yeah, we're good. I was getting calling cards to call. all those
Yeah,
things,
the
the
old
goal,
calling card.
the old card, yeah, the
Yeah.
yellow card, the same goal on it. I got 30 minutes, I only here to beat, all those things. Um, and I just remember like I got, so I got they put me with the youth team and I was 22 and they were 18, 17, 18. So, they're Dutch Academy players, but at that time I'm a grown man, so physically and even knowledge of the game, I'm a little bit ahead. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I expected so, but they could still play. So, I trained with them, really adapted with them well, like also on a social level. And then, I just didn't have the mindset. I didn't really understand the mindset of being pro because no one taught to you or drilled that in your head in America, right? No one. And I had foreign teammates, and I could tell they were always different than the American teammates I had. The American teammates were more focused on partying and girls, and the foreign teammates, um, it, they were maybe focused on it too, but in a different way. They were focused on football too, right? So they would train a little bit more on their own. They would just do things differently. So I had some good teammates at George Mason that taught me, some things. But then when I got into the pro world, I was with that youth team, and the next day I went to a game, saw the first team play, and they struggled and they lost. So my coach came and picked me up from the hotel they put me in that night. He said, "Yeah, on Monday you're training with the first team." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah, don't make me look bad. You're like the first player that is kind of coming through my name, and somebody and American." So it's like, okay, let's see what he can do.
Right.
And no, I ended up having a good trial. Like I just remember I had 1 or 2 sessions, and then he's like, "Yeah, we have a game this Friday. Let's see if we can get you registered and signed." I was like, "What?" Like it was like, oh man, it was like that. So I guess the big thing that stopped me, or the obstacle, was I did not have the EU passport, so I was too expensive. So the club could not sign me. So you're so close to like your kind of goal, your destination, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you know. Um, but what got me over it was, at that time, um, when I saw that I couldn't make it, but also I realized, and for myself, I think I was supposed to prepare a way for people. I think God meant that for me to prepare a way and not be the one on that did the path. I really think that. I really do. Because I've just been blessed to be in a lot of different people's lives and give them opportunities and like I said, whether or not you go pro, like I didn't go pro, like technically, like I was considered good enough. They would have offered the contract if it made, financial sense. But I don't think that was my final journey. So really what helped me get over it was yoga, I came back with a vengeance. I came back with the mindset of a player who got cut, but I put all my energy in coaching. So that's really what a lot of my energy and passion came from. Was like, oh man, you were so close. It's like, okay, just make sure that these kids know, or these families and these kids know how close they are to their dreams. It's like no one's saying this to them. No one's delivering this message. It's like you're supposed to do it. And I think in the first years, everybody thought it was insane. Because I was getting kids, I was recruiting kids and training them, and like 5 or 6 years old. I'm like, we're going to do soccer every day, 2, 3 hours. What? Every day? Yes, every day. I was like, maybe Sunday I'll let you off. Every day. So people are like, you're insane. You're insane. But then they saw the kids loved it. No, there was no burnout with us. We were playing music at the session. We're doing street soccer. I studied a lot from Holland with the street soccer, and then pros came out of it. So you look at it like Teddy Kudapitro was at DC United. He was one of our first players. Lily Johannes, she wasn't with us too long, but she came. She came through the program. Like I brought them. They were able to see Holland, because of me. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So same thing. I was able to see Holland because of Alex, and it was able to pass on. And you see Lily now. Lily's at Ajax. She's in the full women's national team. You're able to kind of connect the dots. And there's other players now that are playing at various different levels. That it makes me so proud. You know what I mean? That I've had an effect on their life because that's the same thing my coach had on me. It's like it changed my whole life pattern. So I think that's how I got over the obstacle of helping others.
So you mentioned that helping others, being a conduit, networking, and I just wanted to ask you, how did that how has that shaped your present day work? Like, what are
Mhm.
you doing with yoga and with your work on a daily basis? Uh, and what is the ultimate, um, for some family that's watching this, it's going, we just want to have some ideas of, like, are we doing this the right way? Like, is there something more we could do or whatever? So kind of give us first a little bit of the picture of what your present day work is like.
Definitely. So, like I said, I'm a consultant now, so, for families that are looking at opportunities overseas. That's something I'm doing. Whether it be we help them with trials or training stints, but also just like mentoring and education. Like, okay, what do you do if you're moving overseas? Because I actually just had a call with a family and they said, look, we're teachers, we're gonna apply for jobs in Europe and move over, for the experience, and then obviously the soccer portion is there, right? Which people are doing. I know the FIFA things come up, but a lot of Americans have a lot of different business skills that can translate over here, and Europe is I would say, if you can find the right country, right city, right place, it can be a enriching experience for your kid, right, and for your families. So really, it's a combination of those things. Obviously, I'm not in the States training kids, but I have actually started Yoga Academy back here in the Netherlands. So now I'm training kids from the Netherlands. Um, we've done our residency programs here. I actually helped a Dutch player uh, get recruited to FC Volendam because he was doing our showcases, and we had to play a U9. We had to play like a couple of U19, U16 games. The kid was 13-year-old goalkeeper, and he just showed out. So everyone was like, "Wait, you're playing his U19?" So he got recruited and scouted and signed to the academy, and so it's like now it's like going full circle. So what my coach did for me, now I'm actually helping Dutch players find other opportunities in Netherlands, not in the Netherlands, sorry, but throughout Europe. And so I think as a portion of that, and now we're starting to do a little bit more of the tournaments. We're going to be doing Mick Cup in Barcelona, as you know. We did Audi Cup in Copenhagen, which was a great experience, a lot at top level. I've normally stayed away from tournaments because I'm always like the development. The development piece is number one. But we're starting to get the experience, especially in the American cultures. Like, we want to go compete. We need to see how good we are, right? Which is it's good. So that's something that's maybe a little bit new, a new wrinkle for us, because like when you all came, it was mostly showcases. Like, okay, we're going to play SU Utrecht, we're going to play PSV, we're going to play these different sides where it'd be competitive, but we're not necessarily in an event to win the tournament or compete
Right.
in the tournament. But I like it. I mean, most of the parents I think get it, like, because this isn't a team that trains every day together. So there's a little bit less pressure because people could be like, look, we just don't know each other, right? We're getting together soon. So yeah, I think that's a new wrinkle of what we're doing, but traditionally this is what we've been doing so far.
So with the background that you have and
Hmm.
the experiences, the networking, the moving around as a kid, the experience of the freedom to explore the game, um, obviously, I think that shaped you in terms of how you explore life and look for opportunities and look for networking, etc. What are some of the um, routines or habits that could help a family in terms of, a, figuring out if this is a sport that they actually really love or their kids really love, and B,
Hmm.
to support that love in terms of their overall development. Do you have any tips or ideas about routines and habits for those families who are trying to maybe figure out a soccer journey and path for themselves?
Definitely. I would say this. I think a lot of, yeah, in the US, obviously we know you have the pay to play model. So everything is kind of constructed to say, okay, if my kid's going to do the sport, he needs to kind of learn it, right, by someone who teaches them. I would say, even if you don't know how to play the sport, play with your kid in that. That's like actually one of the most simple things you can do. Just kick the ball, go one on one with them, push them over. All this, and it doesn't have to be all the time. I understand people are busy, but I think a lot of parents don't even do that side, and they're just like, it's almost like piano lessons. Like, the best people who are musicians is because the family did musician did would sing together. Like that's really what happened is that the influence is because you do it, the kid sees it, and they want to do it.
Right.
But if it's like you're just shuttling them to this training session, that training session, this training session, that. Listen, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying you want to create like a unique experience. I have my kids now, and you know, my girls are starting to get interested in play, and I'm like, man, I was like, Sierra, these girls are serious, bro. Like they're, but because they see me playing every day with Thierry in the house and kicking the ball and trying to do this. I was like, it could just be simple things, and I know that sounds so like simple, but I think when you're talking about love and culture, it's like you that starts at home,
For
right?
sure.
Yeah, so that's something that I just think is maybe missing from a lot of people. Like I said, I know you can be busy, but I think sometimes everyone thinks like, I have to be at every single training session to be this, and I'm like, man, I used to do street soccer sometimes, and I remember the kids. We have 3 kids, and we'd be there for 3 hours. I had to be there for 3 hours on the court, right? And guess what? They would get tired and just be like, "Oh, I just want to do this. So I want to play hide and seek. We're gonna do this." So I'm like, "Go do it." You know why? Because they're being a kid. The culture of the game is around their social experience, and that's what you would experience. I think if you're in the Brazils, the Colombias, like you wouldn't just be playing straight train, 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 train. You would just be having a whole bunch of different experiences around the game. And then I think you get a little bit more serious as you get older. I mean, I know it's changed there too. I've heard it's changed there, but that would just be my message because I think if you want them to love it, I think you have to have some kind of connection to it as well beyond paying for stuff and showing up in the game on the weekend and critiquing what they do. That's just
Oh, I
my
agree.
opinion. That's my opinion.
My favorite are the parents who don't watch the game. They don't
Mm.
do anything really with the game, but they're experts after the game or
Yeah,
during
100%.
or during the game on the sideline. It's always fun. Um,
100%.
so
Yeah.
so is there a question in terms of like so far in your journey in life where you're at now? Is there anything that if you could go back and do it differently that you would choose to do, or are you know
Mm.
happy with where those roads have led to you so far?
I don't believe you should ever regret, right? So I'll say that. But I will say, when I did go to Germany that summer, when I was 15, 14, 15. It was summer 2000, Euro 2000. France winning it, Zidane, Trezeguet scoring that golden goal, seeing Zidane, Henry, that whole team. It was great. And then watching the Euros in Germany, it was a different feel, like a different energy. Like, everything about that. That was my first European experience, right? Before Holland was actually Germany. Um, and I remember they had a field that you can go to, incredible grass. So we just go kick. I did not have a left foot. I spent 2 months striking every day my left foot, so I improved it. And then kids from the neighborhood would play. And I remember there was this kid from France who showed up. He was from Nantes. He was like the best player I've ever played with, man. He was amazing. And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, my brother plays pro for Nantes." Like, but we couldn't speak to each other. Like he just said his brother. We figured out that his brother played pro for Nantes. He didn't speak any English. Of course, I didn't speak any French. But we would hang out every day and just play football. Like this guy could do rainbow. Like he was so technical and is like totally different player. Like than I grew up with in the States. And it was like just football culture. So the American kids would be playing that lived in Germany. The German kids would come and play. The French kids would show up. And then I'm watching Euro 2000. And then towards the end of like the last month I was there, the first team started to come back at the local club. So it was like a semi-pro team. And so I remember they let me train with them once. I was 15. And so I'm in session with them and I'm seeing the club and I'm like, if I had a chance to redo, and I knew what I knew now, I would tell my mom, I was like, I think I want to stay with my dad in Germany, and see how far I can go.
As soon as you started telling this story, I'm like, I think I know where this story is going to end up. I wish I would have stayed with my dad.
Yeah, well, I
Oh
would.
man,
Not saying he stayed too long in Germany, but it was now that at that time I didn't understand anything about the setup, youth teams were.
sure,
If I had the education of, I'm like, okay, let me play for this local team, and if I do well and I'm end up being the best in this team, I'm going to go somewhere else. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like it's going to
yep,
just naturally happen, get seen. And if you look at a lot of the German American players, that even them, a lot of their dads, I think you read their story. Not a lot of their dads are soccer culture. You know,
right.
it's obviously it's so environment matters. So I don't regret, but if you did give me a roll of the dice, I would I would look at that 100%. Yeah, yeah,
I love that. I love that, and it's a
really.
fun question to explore. Not even from a standpoint of like sadness and regret. It's more of just like you know I've had this hypothetical conversation with my kids about different decisions in life, and they'll ask, "Well, if you could go back and do this," I was like, "I'm I am naturally you and I are similar in this. I'm naturally like an explorer. I love to try new things, go new places, see new things, experience all this stuff, and so I'm like, I wouldn't want to live this life the way I've lived it so far the same because." I would want to try something different. That's just my personality. So like
Yep,
not even from a place of regret, just from a place of part of it could be look, knowing what I know now, would I make different choices in certain things in life? Maybe. But
yep,
it's also just the natural explorer in me that's like, well, why would I want to go walk that exact same path again? I would want to
yeah,
try this, and what does that open
yep.
up? Try this, what does that open up? So, as we're coming here to a close, I want to ask you, it for you, um, what would be a piece of advice or a lesson that you could pass on to people who are, whether they're involved with soccer or not? Maybe it's just life in general, and they're just trying to figure out, like, do I take this job that's on the other side of the planet or the other side of the country or not? Whatever the case may be, do you have any kind of piece of advice for someone who's trying to decide what do I do or where do I go next?
Yeah. My biggest thing I would say, and me and you have been talking about exploration. It's without exploring, without testing the limits, you just never know, right? And not never knowing, for me personally, would drive me crazy, right? So you just have to try, you know. Um, and I feel that whether you're trying to come to Europe to play football, or like you said, move for a job, or try a new experience, or you're a player who's trying to make something happen. I always tell people that the best time of my life, other than when I had my kids and all those things, was when I came over here, you know, for that 3 months. Like there wasn't a set plan. It was like, oh, 3 months, save $1,000, host family, do this. It just changed my whole life. Like I grew up so fast, in with that experience. At that time I was like, what, 21 years old? 22. In November I turned 22, so yeah, I was 21 years old. It was, man, it was just something else, for me personally, just to go through that. And I'm not sure if, I think people kind of do it. There's more people who are doing it now, but I think sometimes when I speak to certain parents, they're a little bit apprehensive on their kids doing certain things or trying certain things, and I'm like, you got to let them learn how to fly. You got to let them learn how to fall on their ass. You got to let them go through these experiences, because it's also just building blocks, right? It's building blocks. So that's what I would say. I would just say, like, look, go explore as much as you can. Obviously help support your kids, support yourself, but try to explore as much as you can. You have one life, and you want to kind of look back on it, and you know, look at me right now. Look how happy I am. I'm talking about a failure. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not even talking about like, oh, I played in this stadium, playing this guy. I'm so close. You know what I mean?
Right,
So like,
right.
if I had just stayed in the States and just said, maybe now I'm just going to begin coaching, I don't think I could have done yoga to the level that I did it. I really don't, because I don't think I would have had the same passion. But because I was so close and it didn't happen, that's what fueled the passion. So just imagine, you know?
I love it.
Yeah,
And I love the fact you identified this early on in the conversation today about you really found your sense of purpose through that process of going for those 3 months. It didn't quite work out the way you were hoping or you wanted it to, but in that you found your sense of purpose. Why God put me here, I think is the phrase that you mentioned, or something similar to it at the time. So I appreciate you sharing your story with us and for the audience. For anyone who wants to learn more about you, learn more about yoga, learn more about opportunities and exploration in the soccer space, how can they find you or connect with you?
definitely. On Instagram, you can find us at the Yoga Project, just all in one word, no problem. If you know my name, Kephern Fuller, you can Kephern, I think it's underscore Fuller, on Instagram as well. And then, yeah, email is at info@jogaproject.com. So I would say those are the three best ways to get in contact with us and find out more about our story and how we could potentially help you.
Well, I love it. Thank you for sharing your story. It was great connecting with you years and years ago, meeting you in person, developing a friendship and a relationship to bounce ideas off of and explore life at different times together. It's been really cool, and I really appreciate you coming on the show. As always, for anyone watching or listening, you can learn more about MyJoe at MyJoeXP, or follow us through all social channels, and you can find all of that out at myjoexp.com. Thanks again for watching. Thanks again for
Thank you, Daniel.
listening. We'll see you next time.